Good afternoon and welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host today, Mayor Tim Elinski, and I appreciate you joining us today. We're lucky this afternoon to have Mr. Kent Ellsworth in the room with us. Kent, you are the CEO of Verde Valley Caregivers, which is a truly fantastic transportation program that we have here in the Verde Valley. So I just want to say thanks very much for making the time to come in today and speak with us.
You're most welcome, Tim. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. So you came into my office here recently and wanted to kind of share a little bit about your organization and everything. So unfortunately, we're going to have kind of the same conversation we had when you came in some weeks back. But before we do that, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the public, and if you could share a little bit about your where you're from, for example, and kind of your career path to get you where you are today.
Yes. Well, actually, some people would consider me an older worker, perhaps, huh? Well, I have over a 40-year career in nonprofit work and some with government early on, very early on in the first 9 years, but mostly all with nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit organizations dedicated to serving older adults and dedicated to serving through a community-based process where we engage the community, we engage volunteers. We actually developed, in all of these cases, our services based on the best practices and evidence-based practices as well. And so we have to be assured that we're providing the very best type of services possible in whatever we do. So my background extends to large Meals on Wheels programs where we served 1,000 meals a day, to mental health services programs, adult day service programs, transportation, care coordination, and all kinds of different types of services to assure that older adults can continue to live in their community of choice throughout their entire lifespan.
Got it. Okay. And when you said you started out in government, I'm just curious, what was it that you did initially?
That was a little bit different. That was very early on. When I was 25, I had a career with the California Department of Corrections.
Got it.
As a special agent in the field in central Los Angeles. My territory was South Central LA. I did that for 9 years. It was pretty intensive.
I can imagine. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes.
So what was it that that led you to pursue a career path in nonprofit work?
Actually, that was kind of interesting. I had two very young boys and my wife, and we talked about it a lot. We wanted to get out of central LA, where we lived, and we decided to go to western Montana, to Missoula, Montana. And that was the job I got there, working in the Area Agency on Aging, and they put me in charge to manage all of the older adult direct services we had, Meals on Wheels and care coordination, and our contract for transportation and just a variety of things. That was a lot of fun to develop those services.
So you moved in your 30s up to Montana then, western
That's
Montana?
Correct.
Okay, that must have been quite a transition from LA to Missoula, Montana.
Yes, it was. We no longer heard gunshots every night during the middle of the night.
Unless
it was very
season.
Peaceful. My boys loved it. They could walk back and forth to school. It was really an ideal community for raising a family.
Sure. And how long were you in the Montana area?
For 16 years.
Okay. And all primarily working for the elder population?
Yes, the entire time I was there, that's what I did. And it was a lot of fun, I can tell you that. It's just so much fun. I was just the third employee they had hired. And they did not have Meals on Wheels. They didn't even have a hospice. They didn't even have home health care.
Wow.
So I got to help set up all those services from the very beginning. And that was really good, very rewarding.
Sure.
And figure out the best way to prepare the meals. We had a contract with the local hospital. We got to control the quality and provide a choice of entrees every day to all the 300 plus people we served.
Wow.
And from there I went to California, back to California to the Bay Area. And had a job first in Catholic Charities, also being in charge of older adult services throughout a 3-county area. And that was a lot of fun too. The Meals on Wheels programs was for the San Mateo County region.
Okay.
And it was very big and very, very well run. It just seemed just right, absolutely right, to be able to develop all of that and grow those programs to make sure we could serve as many people as possible.
Okay. And so then from San Mateo County, then you moved here to Arizona?
Yeah, so a few other things in between, but pretty much the same sorts of jobs in different places around the Bay Area.
Okay.
And, the work there was really, really good. And, what really happened is that the big economic downturn, and most all those programs in the Bay Area were funded perhaps up to close to 50% by federal dollars, and the rest came locally. And what happened is those local governments that put in a large amount of money stopped putting in money suddenly in 2009.
Right.
So it was a little bit difficult, and I still wanted to get involved in building something, not taking something apart.
Right.
And so this job was open here at Verde Valley Caregivers Coalition. I said, that's it. I get to go back to work building. I like to put things together, not take them apart.
Right. So then you moved here
Yes.
to the Cottonwood area in around about what year? 2009?
That was 2010.
2010. Okay.
And that was a lot of fun. It's been absolutely a wonderful and rewarding time at Verde Valley Caregivers for the last, it'll be 10 years in a couple months.
Wow. So
And that was
rewarding,
good.
I think that's a key word to describe work in the nonprofit sector, but a lot of people, my wife worked in the nonprofit sector for a lot of years too, and there does tend to be burnout working in the nonprofit sector, and you got a 40-year career in it. How have you kept yourself engaged in the good work that you've done?
Well, it's inspiring to me to accept a challenge. And I really honestly do like challenges. And the challenge here is to grow Verde Valley Caregivers in line with the growing need. So how do we keep building the capacity? What occurred to me just a few months after starting is that our phone doesn't stop ringing. And primarily it's people seeking services. I need help. I'm desperate. I haven't been able to get to my doctor's appointments.
Right.
I can't get to the grocery store anymore. I need help. So how do we grow our program sufficiently so that we never have to say no to somebody who truly needs us?
Right.
And so being able to do that has been a lot of fun. A great staff, a wonderful board of directors, and we've been able to grow by about 600 to 700%
Okay. Wow.
in these past almost 10 years.
Okay. Well, tell me, before we get into that, because I do want to find out what you're actually doing right now with the Verde Valley Caregivers, but in 2010, when you moved to Cottonwood, it was you and your wife, I
Yes.
presume. What was your board composition at that time? What was the size of the organization at that time, and what were the service
At that time,
population?
we provided, we served about 800 people, and we provided about 4,000 trips per year. And we just had 2 staff, myself and one other person, and some volunteers answering the phones as well.
Okay.
But generally, our phones could be handled by one person during the day. And now, where are we? We're serving 2,000 people a year. We're providing 40,000 trips. Our volunteers and staff drivers combined are driving close to 400,000 miles this year.
Wow.
Yes, that's a lot. And we get about 1,000 phone calls each week at our office, and we have 3 to 4 individuals, some volunteers and some paid staff combined, answering our phones Monday through Friday. Handling 1,000 calls a week, that's a big deal. It's a lot of work. Yeah. And we have a really good software system. We've built our capacity in every way. And the amount of funding we've gotten is kind of interesting to me. It's the first place I've ever worked where the amount of funding from federal sources and local municipal governments is less than 1/3 of our total budget.
Is that in contrast to where you worked in California and even up in Montana?
That's correct.
Okay.
In Montana, it was almost 100% federal and local tax sources.
Interesting.
But here, it's the people. The people roll up their sleeves and says, yes, this is a problem. Let me help.
Yeah.
Let me volunteer. Yes. And I want to make a contribution. So approximately 50% of all of our funding comes from individual donors who just love what we do and want to make sure we're here when they need us.
Yeah.
Because they want to be able to stay in their community of choice throughout their entire lifespan.
That's fantastic to think that 50% of your funding would come from
Individuals.
So was that a surprise to you?
Oh, yes, and I think that's probably the most rewarding part of this job. The volunteers coming forward to help each other and their communities, and the contributions coming to us from members of our communities who really know that this is such an important thing, and they want to make sure we're here for them too.
Right. I'm going to cut you off there just briefly. We have to take a quick break for 1 minute, but do come back and join us. We're going to continue our conversation and find out a little bit more about what it is exactly that Verde Valley Caregivers can do for our community. So stick around.
Attention Cottonwood residents. If you've been a Cottonwood resident for a year or more and are at least 18 years old, you could run for the Cottonwood City Council. The Cottonwood City Council makes policy decisions and is empowered to enact ordinances and policies to protect citizens' rights in the city of Cottonwood. In the 2020 election cycle, the citizens of Cottonwood will elect a mayor and 4 council members. If you want to be a part of the Cottonwood City Council, now is the time to contact the Cottonwood City Clerk's office for more information. Qualified electors can run for mayor or council seats, and all forms and petitions are due by April 6, 2020. Contact the Cottonwood City Clerk today at 928-340-2727. The City of Cottonwood, inspiring a vibrant community.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Mayor Tim Elinski, and we have with us in the studio today Kent Ellsworth. He's the CEO of the Verde Valley Caregivers. And before break, we were speaking briefly about sort of your career path that brought you here to Cottonwood. I believe in 2010 you moved to Cottonwood. I'm assuming sight unseen to be the CEO of the Verde Valley Caregivers, because they were in need of a new CEO, and I think you took an organization from serving 800 folks a year all the way up to, did you say 2,000? 2,000 plus a year in the last 10 years. You've grown by, I think you said 600%?
In the level of services we've provided, yes,
Yeah, okay.
600%.
So in a nutshell, for folks that aren't familiar with your organization, what is it primarily that you do for our community?
Verde Valley Caregivers serves people who are no longer able to drive due to health conditions, advanced age, or disability. So without us, they're stuck. They can't get to the grocery store, they can't get to the post office, and especially to all of those medical appointments. And I think that's a big, crucial issue. We don't want people just to be stuck at home, isolated, unable to get those regular services they need for their daily living. And so what has happened around the nation, not just here in Arizona, but in every state around the country, is that so many older adults who are now, especially those living alone, unable to drive, they end up going from home to hospital, home to hospital, home to hospital, and they completely miss out on all those primary care services. What we do is assure people that enroll in our services that we will get you wherever you need to go free of charge. We do not charge anything for the services we deliver. And that gives them that sense of peace and assurance that now I can get to Fry's or Walmart or to Safeway to get what I need. All I got to do is call Verde Valley Caregivers, and you guys can get me to Flagstaff when my physician makes a referral to a specialist up there. We'll do that free of charge too, all of that. And we now get people to Phoenix, we get them to Flagstaff, we get them to the veterans in Prescott.
Right.
Wherever they really need to go. This is such an important time in their life, and at this phase in their life when they're no longer able to drive. This is when the community is needed to come around and say, hey, I'll do that, I'll help out, I'll drive.
Right. And that's really how you manage this, is through a huge arsenal of volunteer hours, right? And,
Yes.
and people that are committed to your organization. And how many volunteers do you have working for you?
We have about 350 volunteers in a given year. So that's the blessing. That's the blessing of the Verde Valley area. So many people are willing to roll up their sleeves and say, I'll do that, let me help. I'll be a part of that.
Wow.
And so that makes a difference. This is a very wonderful area like that. We do take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's very giving, loving, compassionate community.
Yes.
So I imagine that contrasts somewhat with your previous experience in California. In a more urban environment, I would think that
Yes.
you probably wouldn't have as much of a volunteer base, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, that is absolutely right, Tim. It's an interesting contrast to take a look at, though. Yes, in those large urban areas, we couldn't find that many volunteers. In fact, all of our Meals on Wheels drivers we had to hire. We hired 10 Meals on Wheels drivers in our Oakland program. And yeah, it was just, we couldn't find the volunteers to go out and do that sort of thing there.
Right.
And also, almost all the funding was from some sort of taxpayer source, whether it was municipal or county, state, or federal government. Here, it's just the opposite. It's the people saying, hey, I will support that. We need that here.
Right.
Let me help. And so, I mean, that's really an incredible blessing, and that not very many regions have.
Right.
Not very many regions are like that.
Right.
But that Verde Valley is this way, man, that is absolutely perfect. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, good. You certainly landed in the right spot then.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so essentially, if somebody needs a ride to get to an appointment or whatever, they would call you, schedule the appointment. No questions asked. You come, you pick them up free of charge. You take them where they need to go, whether that's Flag, Phoenix,
Cottonwood, in Cottonwood, or going to Sedona. I mean, there's some healthcare services provided in Sedona that aren't provided in Cottonwood. And there's the immediate care center in Camp Verde, a part of the NAH system. We get people there. And so we get people to dialysis. And so, for example, we've had about 40 to 50 some individuals each year that we give free trips to dialysis. And for a person, for example, living in Camp Verde, coming to Cottonwood, that would be approximately $50 each way, $100 a day, just to stay alive, out of pocket, if they didn't have us, if they didn't have Verde Valley Caregivers.
Right.
So we have a van driver who gets up at 5:30 in the morning and goes and picks up people and gets them to dialysis.
Got it.
So that's the blessing that we provide back to our people, is that, yeah, we'll make sure this is good for you, that you can still live here.
Well, you're making a huge impact on their quality of life. You know,
Yes.
I think we want people to be able to live in their own home for just as long as possible. I think it has a much better impact on their mental outlook, and what a huge savings too for all of us taxpayers and users of services, to not have to have someone be in a hospital, and how much more expensive that is to be cared for in the hospital environment.
That's correct. That's very, very true. I mean, and then the people we serve, we ask them when we begin our service, and they initially enroll. We go through a little survey, and then we survey them again, about 3 to 6 months later. And what we find is that when people call us to first ask for help, we find that about 85% of those folks have missed critical health care appointments over the prior year. Some state that they haven't been able to go to the doctor at all. They just call 911. And after they enroll, about 93% say they've gone to every single health care appointment made for them.
Wow.
All their primary care visits, their physical therapy, all of those appointments, they make every one of them because of us.
Wow.
And that changes their life. Now that care is coming from the community, from the primary care services, and they can get stronger, and they can live better,
Yeah.
and they can live longer.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Nice work.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to cut you off again. We're going to take another brief 1-minute break and come back. I want to talk to you about a couple things when we get back. One is your volunteer engagement and how you maintain such a strong supply of dedicated volunteers. And the second thing I want to talk to you about when we get back is your fundraiser.
Oh, yes.
Your exceptional fundraiser.
Yes.
So don't go anywhere. Join us for the last brief 10 minutes of our Inside Cottonwood. Thank you.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.org.
Big organization. Yeah. Okay, welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. Again, I'm your host, Mayor Tim Elinski. With me is Kent Ellsworth, CEO of Verde Valley Caregivers. Before the break, we were kind of discussing some of the benefits you provide elderly folks who are living at home, and you're able to give 97% rate of folks that enroll in your services make it to their appointments, which is incredible.
Yes.
Which of course makes them healthier, happier, helps them live longer, more just better lives at home. So again, just thank you for the service you provide.
You're welcome.
With a volunteer staff of 350 folks. So that's a huge number. That's a huge number of volunteers. I know they're not all full-time, obviously, and over break we were talking about how some of those are seasonal, so your numbers may drop off in the summer as folks leave and go someplace cooler for the summer. But I'm curious how you manage to keep 350 volunteers engaged and showing up for work with a positive attitude every day.
Right. Well, it's all about community engagement and the response from the community. But from an individual volunteer's perspective, here's what we hear. It's really fascinating. In fact, a volunteer decided just today, this afternoon, to stop by at the office and tell us about the stories he heard from the people he's serving through us. He was just about in tears. He heard from a person who is a veteran of World War II and listened to those exploits and all of the struggles he went through and all kinds of wonderful stories. And the fellow who was a bush pilot in Alaska, he was just so impressed with his stories and his experiences from the 30s and 40s, and he just really enjoyed it. So it's that bond. Now the people we are serving are not likely to engage with you at the grocery store. They can't get there on their own. They usually don't go out to events because they can't drive in the evening. So where best to find them? In their home. When you go to visit them, you go to pick them up to take them to a doctor's office, and you listen to their stories, and it's just a wonderful exchange. So many volunteers have told me the reason they love doing this so much is that they love the people we're serving. And it's an experience for them that is just really a treasure as a volunteer. And so that's what keeps our people coming back as volunteers. They really get attached to this work.
Sure. Mutual enrichment, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What's the average age of your volunteer?
The average age is about 68 to 75, right in there.
Okay. And I'm assuming you could always use more volunteers, right?
Yes, we need to recruit more volunteers. We need about 40 to 50 new volunteers every year.
Okay.
And so that's going well.
Okay. And what do you do to recruit volunteers?
We go to the public libraries, and we go to the rec center here in Cottonwood, and we go to churches, and we put little articles in newspapers throughout the Verde Valley.
Okay.
And that seems to work pretty well, although we do need more volunteers. If anyone out there listening to this wants to volunteer, give us a call.
Okay.
You know, take our number down, give us a call, we'll get you signed up.
Good.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Very
and I
good.
think this whole process that we've talked about and the volunteering and serving people and understanding the difference we make, it was in 2017, we got a call from the Community Transportation Association of America, a national organization, stating they have awarded us the best volunteer transportation service in the United States. And so that really helps a lot.
Yeah.
It has helped us get other grants, but what's probably the most significant thing is that they gave us a brand new Toyota mobility van with a wheelchair ramp, fully equipped with Sirius XM radio, 3-zone air conditioning, just nice leather seats.
Wow.
It's a great little van.
That's great.
And we have 90,000 miles on it already.
And that was in
So-
2017 when you picked it up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in August 2017.
Yeah, fantastic.
So all this comes together. It's the communities, it's their giving, it's the volunteers in particular are the strength of our program. And all that makes the level of excellence that we've been able to achieve comes from all of that, all those contributions.
Great. Well, good for you.
Thanks.
Again, yeah, well, we talked over break. You said there's perhaps about 200 of these of similar programs throughout the nation.
Yes.
But not many of those are funded the way that yours is, which is about a third or less from federal monies, and the bulk of the funding that you need to run your programs are from donations.
That's correct.
Fundraising and then writing grants.
That's correct.
Yeah. So let's talk about fundraising, because I know you do an excellent fundraiser. Is in the fall, correct?
Yes, that's our main gala that we have. Our primary annual fundraiser will be November 20th this year.
Okay.
And that's a lot of fun. It takes a lot of work to get there, and we have a full-time person on staff who manages all of our development and work and communications and our events, which helps. We wouldn't be able to do this without that. And we have a wonderful board of directors. So our board of directors are all directly involved in developing this fundraiser, and that makes a huge difference. And it takes a while to grow, but that amounts now to, well, this past year, I think it's published on our website, that our gracious, wonderful, generous donors gave us $180,000 at that event.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's
We're
unbelievable.
so happy with that. That means, yes, we can keep going with all of this.
Right.
And
Right. Well, they wouldn't trust you unless you'd proven to them that you're a great leader of your organization and you make a very positive impact in our community. So I'm sure they're more than willing to open up their purse strings to help you out.
And with all the other individual gifts, we do mail out direct mail appeals each year. We add up all of the gifts from individuals. The people we serve give us voluntary contributions too. And so altogether that comes to about $450,000 to $500,000 a year.
Okay.
And that's pretty good, isn't it? That's just,
It is good.
I'm so happy with that.
Yeah. I imagine it goes quick with all the maintenance and
Yes.
fuel and everything else, but wow, what a huge amount of money to raise from this community.
That's right.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, we just have a minute or two left here, but it seems to me like you've in your 10-year time span here, you've created just an excellent organization that fills in the gaps where public transportation may not provide services that your clientele need. You've made a huge difference in their lives. They're able to again stay home, live happier, healthier lives, make their doctor's appointments. So you've really made a tremendous impact in their quality of life, and of course their family's quality of life. Where else can you take this organization? It seems like you're at the peak right now. I mean, what are your plans to grow or excel?
Yes. Well, to put it simply, it's find a new peak and start climbing.
Okay.
So that's the way it works.
Yeah.
And our new peak would be able to expand our hours so we can do evening hours and more weekend trips.
Okay.
And to be able to we have 2 mobility vans, wheelchair accessible vans. We probably need 2 more.
Okay.
And what I want to do is guarantee to everybody out there who's unable to drive due to health conditions, disability, or advanced age. We see a lot of people who probably should think about not driving anymore, and to give them the opportunity to have that security, transportation security for people who can no longer drive. If we can guarantee that for people here in Cottonwood and throughout the Verde Valley, free of charge, then yes, you can feel comfortable in being here, being within your community of choice for the rest of your life.
Right.
So it's until we're able to make that guarantee and get people to the movies or to an event in the evening, or maybe out to an early bird dinner at a restaurant nearby. We want to be able to do that too. That way people stay connected to their community. It's not just about getting to the doctor's office, which is very important, but it's also always being a part of your community. You don't have to pull back and just sit at home and watch TV all day.
Right.
We can get you out to some of these events too. That's the next peak. We want to be able to do that and make that guarantee.
Great. I'm pleased to hear that. That's good. It's a good goal. And of course, to get there, it's going to take more volunteers.
More volunteers.
Yeah, some more funding, I'm sure, wouldn't hurt. So I imagine that people know how to get a hold of you. This program helps. If you want to help volunteer or serve your organization.
Yes.
And of course, if you want to donate, it's always
Please call
welcome.
us. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're out of time here today, but I'm glad you came in to speak about your
Thank you, Tim.
Your nonprofit, and I'm really glad that you've stuck it out for 40 years in what can sometimes be a grueling career in nonprofit work, but you've really made a heck of a difference. And thanks for being in Cottonwood. Thanks for moving out here.
Well, you're most welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, we're lucky to have you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, that's it for today's Inside Cottonwood. I'll see you again next month. Thank you. Take care.